All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the Hour 2 edition of the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network. And right down the street is our number one affiliate, and that is your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ. And they're streaming us around the world on classic1220.ca. And if you're driving around the Niagara region, if you're driving throughout the GTA, if you're driving in London, how about the northern tier of the United States? Keep tuned to 1220 CFAJ. That's Classic 1220. 1220 AM on your AM dial and streaming at 1220.ca. My guest this hour is good friend, the one and only folklorist, and I'm talking about John Harrington and Horrigan, I should say. And
Horrigan.
Yeah, all right. Hey, it's the second hour. I'm allowed to make goofs. Hey, how's it going, buddy? A lot of action your side of the border.
First of all, I hope that you're doing well. I hope your listeners are doing well. I'm battling the cold, so you'll hear a bit of a raspy throat, a sore throat, bronchitis, but it's all it takes is riding on the subway once, which I did, and then rubbing your eye, and then it's been exciting. I'm so glad that yesterday went off without violence, without destruction, without fires, without riots. Boy, I'd never seen anything. I mean, he's bombastic, he bloviates, but he's alpha, and he's a leader. And the way he was holding this press conference while signing the executive order, and you could hear the squeaking of his Sharpie pen. It was just incredible. I mean, He was just taking questions from left to right, and who was it? Steve Miller was the guy handing him the executive orders, signing them, but I'd never seen anything like that. And of course, prior to that, his inauguration speech. Talk about putting a pie in the face of Harris and Biden. I mean, right there, you can just see their, and they had to take it. That was glorious.
It certainly was nothing compared to what we do up here in Canada. Like I was saying before, I said, when we have our prime ministers change, they say, all right, let's go down to Tim Hortons, have a coffee and a couple of donuts, eh? And that's it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you're going to be looking at a new prime minister as well shortly, right?
Yeah, we are. Looks like Mark Carney's is leading the pack, and he was the former governor of the Bank of Canada. So he's got a lot of experience in the finance industry, so I'm sure that he'll be a welcomed competitor for President Trump. But I can't understand one thing, and maybe you can help me with what happened with the J6 group, the carte blanche pardon. How do you do that? How in the name of God do you do that?
Okay, so before you do that, let's go to Joe Biden. Okay. Pardoning his family, okay, all of his brothers. I mean, they found some bank accounts today. Joe Biden is the most corrupt official, and I believe in the history of Western civilization.
Wow.
That's hyperbole, of course. But here's a guy that sold out of his country to gain wealth for his family, whereas Trump gave up the wealth for his family to save the country. So with what Biden did pardoning Fauci, I mean, here's a man who's going to have so many millions and millions of deaths on his hand because of him with his sickly shot and his yellow footprints all around the world in every single building, including the Vatican. He lied under oath, so he's been pardoned, but he's going to get that. And of course, Hunter Biden, the drug addict, crystal meth, crack cocaine, you pick, prostitutes, married his sister-in-law. On the laptop, they'll show that there's incest involved. On and on it goes. So it's good riddance. Get that out. They should bring in a demonologist and an exorcist into the White House before Trump assumes power. And of course, we've already had 3 female presidents in the United States: Mrs. Wilson, when Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and of course Nancy Reagan, when Ronald Reagan was down. Of course, Jill Biden was the third female president. So with all the pardons that he gave, and Liz Cheney and the J6 committee, those people were locked up with no trial for years, held in solitary confinement, treated like animals. The entire J6 Fedsurrection, as they call it, was infested with federal agents. They didn't bring in the National Guard. They opened up doors. A young lady, Ashley Babbitt, was killed. I can go on and on and on. So to me, they're innocent people. All 50, well, there's probably a few. There were a few wearing Antifa garb, masks over their head. And when I was watching that, and they're smashing windows, and I'm thinking, like, what are you doing? Who would do that? And if I was down there, and I wouldn't have been, I would have tried to go spread eagle across the door and said, well, don't go in. What are you doing? And there are people that backed away and didn't go in and were arrested anyways when they were 300, 400, 500 yards away from the Capitol building. So it was all a big joke. And I know that Canada gets cable news network. CNN feed is CBC. There's a brother-sister relationship there. And the J6, you saw it, but the people smashing were Antifa undercover. I could show you probably 7, 8 videos attesting to that. So I'm glad they did that. And now they'll go after the corrupt judges, the corrupt lawyers. And I tell you what, the rats are leaving Washington right now. They're all getting out and they're scared. And I'm glad he did that. And you're going to see so many arrests coming forward, so many trials. It's not revenge, it's retribution. They tried to shoot him a few times. They tried to imprison him. He's clean. And now the shoe's on the other foot. Nancy Pelosi should have her head on a swivel. Adam Schiff, the bug-eyed liar who's a traitor to the United States of America, he's on notice. So it's going to be interesting. And unfortunately, I believe this will lead to an American Civil War in the next 4 years. So,
let me ask you this. Is there any way that the president can override a pardon?
No, but lawyers can. And Congress can. They got Fauci lying under oath, so he's pardoned, but now perjury, that's different. And the states can go after them individually. Like you watch for Florida. And Joe Biden, there's so many. It's best if Joe Biden expired before he starts rambling on, but he took in millions upon millions of dollars as a vice president, and then later, the big guy, Pop, as Hunter called him, during his presidential administration. And all the Chinese letting those surveillance balloons go across America, having Chinese spies infiltrating the Democratic Party at staff levels. It's 4 years of children literally having a house party, smashing windows, doing drugs, and writing on the walls. And now the grown-ups are taking over. And I'll tell you what, the perversion that went on down there. There's only 2 genders. There's always been 2 genders, in the rare case, a third one. And there are people that transgender. So you could say there are 4 types of genders: male, female, hermaphrodites, if that's the right term, and people that either transfer gender from male to female, with all the fixins, or female to male. So it's enough of this nonsense in the United States, and stop the United States paying for people to invade our borders, paying for illegal gangs to come in and infiltrate our cities, paying for children to be trafficked. So I could go on and on and on, but I'm a Trump guy. He makes mistakes, but this is a new dawn, and there's millions upon millions of Americans that are looking forward to not being afraid anymore.
There were supposed to be surprise raids throughout Chicago this morning, and apparently the raids were tipped off to the areas or to the associations and organizations that actually take in and shelter the undocumented immigrants. Any idea how that happened?
First of all, this is the first I've heard of that. It doesn't surprise me at all. Unfortunately, there's going to be gunplay and violence, and people are going to die both on the ICE side and law enforcement side, and also the illegal immigrants. But they were tipped off, so they leave the apartment building. Now where do they go? To McDonald's? Sit in having coffee like the guy who shot the CEO of that healthcare network. They're going to find out, and who tipped them off? Who do you think tipped them off? It's probably moles that are still in the White House, leftover Biden administration people are tipping them off, and they can do that. This guy Tom Homan is tough. He's strong. He backs up his words. and you're going to see him round them up and kick them out. You know what? I saw a bumper sticker today in somebody's car. It said "Pedro, go home," and it's the people that we're paying. Now, it's one thing we've talked about this. The people that are here illegally in the United States, and I'm in an area where there's many illegals, but they work. Yeah. I'll get out to my automobile at 6:30 a.m. and the night before they're 4 deep in cars. You know, probably 7 people in an apartment. The next morning there's nobody there because they're out hustling. Yeah. They're the plumbers, they're the carpenters, they're the lawn care people, they're the masons, they work in the fast food, they work in retail. So for those people, we have to find a path, find an avenue for them to stay. All they have to do is file an income tax return like I do by April 15th.
You know, we have the same up here in Canada. And, you know, I agree with you. I really do. They take the jobs that Canadians are too damn lazy to take. Or it's below their standards to work in a fast food industry or to work in a field with the agriculture people or to work with landscapers. And, you know, and hats off to these people. They work. They're not afraid to work.
And they're good workers.
Yes, they are.
And the guys who did the roof, my roof, were excellent. I brought out water, ice water, to them, and they had like almost tears in their eyes, like, I can't believe you're doing this for me. And then when I brought out the kids to the suitcase at 6 p.m., we should have seen them. It's just, they're good people. Even the snow removal here in Boston, we just got hit with some snow. They're the guys driving the plows. So, and Trump knows that, and the Republicans know that. Those people are going to stay. We just have to get them in the stadium, raise their right hand, give them a real social. We'll see on April 15th, file like everybody else does. Yeah. And then they've got to reduce taxes. I know that Trump's going after the IRS. There's a hiring freeze. It was very bipartisan. They were literally auditing churches and religious organizations and pro-lifers and letting Planned Parenthood, which is an anachronism, it's an oxymoron, actually, go without paying taxes. So it's got to get, there's so much money going out overseas. That's Zelensky, you know my feeling about him. Yeah. Putin, Trump said he lost nearly 1 million soldiers. The North Korean soldiers that we talked about are getting slaughtered. It's just a quagmire. Stop the war. Let Putin withdraw. Stop funding Zelensky, because all that money is out there and it's unaccounted for. And a lot of his generals, as I told you in the previous interview, 7 of his generals lost homes in the Palisades fire.
Unreal. Hey, listen, you and I have to take our first break, John, so please stand by. And Exonation, John Horrigan is our special guest of this hour, and you can, 2 websites, roswellwitness.com and folklorist.tv. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, just down the street from our AM affiliate right here in St. Catharines, and that is your hometown radio, Classic 1220. And you can listen to us streaming, thanks to our good friends at Classic 1220 on classic1220.ca. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break, and more with our very special guest, John Horrigan. Whatever you do, don't go away. And welcome back. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network and throughout the province of Ontario on Classic 1220, CFAJAM, and they're streaming us on classic1220.ca, and to all the people here in St. Catharines and the great region of Niagara listening to us on Classic 1220. It's always a great pleasure meeting you. And if you'd like to send me an email, send it to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. John Horrigan is our guest. www.roswellwitness.com and folklorist.tv. Let's talk about some of the executive orders. Now, help me understand the power and the authority behind an executive order.
Essentially, by the swipe of a pen, from what I understand, a president can override any action or put in and implement a law or an action overriding Congress and the Senate. That's my understanding of it. And what he did is he reversed 78 of Biden's policies, literally an hour into or 2 hours into being sworn in. And then he went a number of things. He withdrew from the World Health Organization.
Yep. And the Paris Accord.
In the United States was paying hundreds of millions more than any other country. And they really haven't benefited from the World Health Organization. They really blew it in COVID. The trillions of dollars lost economically worldwide due to their implementation of a pandemic. You know, Rob, when there's a pandemic, the thing people see, bodies on the streets. Okay, and we didn't see one. Nobody saw one. They all died quietly in hospitals, being intubated and taking Fauci's drug called remdesivir. So he reversed a bunch of Biden executive orders, tightened up the border now. He's going to get rid of what we call in the slang anchor babies, of children that were born to illegal aliens here.
Right.
He froze foreign aid for the next at minimum 90 days, which is good. He promised an end to the Ukraine war, which is good. Stop that. And Putin wants that to happen. Putin is probably wiping his brow in relief with Trump there, because what Biden wanted and what the Pentagon wanted and what the DOD wanted was to have that war go on infinitely and just have Russia hemorrhage out, right? Lose troops and lose all of their hardware. And then, the immigration is going to get tough. I told you in Massachusetts we have hotels. Buddy of mine, active cop, goes to one of these immigration hotels where they're getting paid $1,500 to $2,000 a month, more than seniors on Social Security. Yeah. Plus, they're getting automobiles with loans with no background checks. And the guy comes up to him, a man from Africa, saying, "Where's my house? Where's my house at?" He wants a free house. So it's that type of ridiculousness. And it's one thing if you bring a skill. Yeah. I think what's H-1B visas, but it's another thing if you're here just to loot and pillage, and that's what they're here for. And then the other thing is climate and drilling. Basically,
drill, baby, drill.
He's going to open up Alaska and do the domestic drilling here in the United States and sell it to everybody worldwide. He's talking about tariffs. And as I said, he said some very unkind things about Canada making it a 51st state. We spoke, if you're going to really use that line, say 10 provinces and 3 territories. And I don't think he's going to enact a tariff. I know that he and Pierre, whenever Pierre gets into power, hopefully soon, they're two like-minded people.
I got to tell you, Poilievre's not going to get in.
Really?
Yeah.
Why's that?
The new leading person that is really ranking up the rates is now Mark Carney, the former governor of the bank.
Okay.
And he has experience, he has power, he has friends, and he's going to be the next leader of the Liberal Party. And when the election goes, I believe that the Liberals will take it again, this time with a majority.
Yeah. And, of course, what they said about Trump being a billionaire, he's going to help all his wealthy friends, and maybe Carney the same, right?
You got it. That's what politics is all about, How can you tell when a politician is lying? They open their mouth.
Yeah. They can talk the same language.
Yeah.
Right. And Canada needs better, stronger representation. I mean, what we've seen in North America over the past 4 years, I think what Trudeau was in power for 8 years.
Yep.
So his time came and gone. I don't know if he's going to join a minstrel show. or what his plans are once he leaves.
He's probably going to go back to teaching.
Wow. Well, leave them kids alone, teacher.
Not that kind of teaching.
That's another story there.
Yeah, it is. There's always another story behind the story behind the story behind the story.
You got it.
Yeah.
One thing before we move from the pardons, the Biden pardons, he left 4 people wide open. These are the people that persecuted, not prosecuted, persecuted through prosecution Donald Trump. Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, Judge Juan Merchant and his daughter, and Fannie Willis. If I were them, the 4 of them should be seeking asylum in a country that does not have extradition orders to the United States.
Okay, refresh my memory about who they are and what they did.
Sure. These are all the 4 trials that were brought against Donald Trump for that E. Jean Carroll. Have you ever seen that crazed woman with her eyes saying that Trump raped her after 40 years? He brought that up. And then the Fannie, what's her face, the stripper, we find out she never got paid off by Trump. He pushed that one in federal prosecution. He also destroyed classified documents. Alvin Bragg, he's Manhattan DA, falsifying business records he tried to charge Trump with, even though Trump had provided all of his tax records. And he's also soft on crime. New York City has gone down the tubes because he catch and release. He's funded by George Soros. Juan Merchant, whose daughter has made millions off of this trial. He was involved in Trump's New York criminal trial. He was trying to rig the Manhattan sham trial, quote unquote, for that Trump said. And he's now dropped the charges, but he wanted to find Trump guilty with no fine. Guilty? How is he guilty without a sentence? I'm not sure how it goes. And then there's Fannie Willis. She's a doozy in Georgia Court of Appeals, who's she said that Trump committed election interference. And of course, that relates to the 2020 election where all these write-in votes came in by a truck at 2 a.m. when they stopped the count. I remember watching that, and I don't care what anybody says. They say that Biden got 81 million votes, and I have yet to find one person in the United States who admits to have voted for him. And that, to me, tells a lot. And now they're going to, with the 2024 election, they had a lot of watchers, right? It was too big to rig, as they say.
Yeah.
And that's why. And the Democrats, they stayed home. It's the tortoise and the hare. Hare went to sleep under the tree. The tortoise won the race, right? So those are the 4 people that I think that Biden deliberately left open. And, of course, the Democratic Party, Bidens are fighting with Pelosi. They didn't wish her well when she broke her hip. I don't know if that was after a martini or a Mai Tai. But then they don't like Harris. Jill Biden, of course, she's hissing. They don't like Hillary. Clinton doesn't like them. Blah. So there's so much infighting. I don't see them recovering in 4 years. And what they did to Joe Biden is shovel him off. He was mentally incapable of being president. He wasn't leading the United States. And we've seen the word salads and the confusion, and he was finally exposed in the debate. But and that's when they replaced him. And people are tired of the Democrats. They've had their fill. They've been gaslit for the last time. Everybody's turning into a contrarian. They're the laughing stock of the world. And I just, my 3 younger siblings are all leftists, and we can't talk. My 3 older siblings, we can. So, and it's their hatred to the point that my brother rolled up his sleeve 10 times for inoculations in the last 3 years because he thought he could hurt Trump. And now he's got heart conditions, all sorts of medical problems. So that ties back to Fauci. So at the end of the day, let's give Trump a chance. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things he said that he's not going to follow through on. And it's just him doing a Tarzan yell, King Kong, hitting his chest. Mm-hmm. But in the same token, there's a new sheriff in town, and the Democrats are going to do whatever they can to throw tax in the way of all of his nominees for cabinet positions. So that's coming next. And they'll come up with a woman who said that so-and-so attacked her 45 years ago. She can't remember the time, the place, or what happened, but it definitely happened, just like they did with that Supreme Court judge. So we'll see. I just want this country to heal. I don't see it healing in the long run. I see that these leftists, they went to march Saturday. I call them sky screamers, because that's all they do is scream at the sky, and they say they've lost all their rights and they're going to go to prison and this and that. It's like, no, what you lost is people's attention. And people aren't going to pay attention to what you say anymore. In fact, when I see somebody with brightly colored hair like that and nose piercing, I politely try to move away in a right angle as if a tornado is coming. That's the way I do it, because you do not want to get into conflict or confrontation with them. So I feel bad for them. They've been lied to. And when you've been gaslit by the fake news, mainstream media for so long, how do you come down? Detox. It's just like AA. It's just like a drug addict, a junkie. Coming down off of the fix for so long. And it's hard to understand that your reality is not the reality at all. That said, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I've been wrong. 50% of the time I'm wrong about everything, Rob. So,
let's talk about the drones. It seems that the drone sightings are down.
They're down over the last 36 hours, yes.
Any idea why and, or what these drones are?
At first, I thought they were Chinese, right?
Uh-huh.
The Biden administration in pirating with the Chinese. China, as you know, under the Biden administration, has purchased lands adjacent to military installations, some of them sensitive, and some of the drones were emanating from there and going over military bases. This is non-UFO related, this portion.
Right.
So as if they were scoping out one last run. They began just after Thanksgiving, well, just before Thanksgiving in the U.S., about the middle of November. And they continued right through, the present day. And they seem to be monitoring, and you saw the videos, very peculiar. Drones are very inexpensive. You can see, and for the New Year's Eve celebrations, you saw how they were aligned with AI and daisy-chained them. And then I thought, maybe why haven't they fired on them? And then I said, that's because they're ours. The United States government belongs. Because we didn't get an explanation. And Trump said he'd give out an explanation. And here we are now. It's been a day. I haven't heard a word. So, do what you say you're going to do, President Trump, and let us know what these drones are. And then, of course, here's my theory. I started watching these videos, and you've been at this game, UFO game, for many, many decades. I have too in the background. And some of the maneuvers in the speed in which they operated, they're not prop-driven drones. No way.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our break here, my good friend. Yep. John Horrigan's my guest, X-Zone Nation. Here's his websites: RoswellWitness.com and Folklorist.tv. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. You're listening to us on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on our affiliate, Classic 1220 CFAJ-AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, and streaming us live on classic1220.ca. And welcome back. John Horrigan's my special guest, and John is a regular here on the X-Zone, and we're happy to have him. His websites are RoswellWitness.com and Folklorist.tv. John, do you think that there's going to come a time, just before we get back to the drones, when we'll be able to walk down the streets without tripping on people who are sleeping on the streets or sleeping in doorways or sleeping in hotels, getting money and not having to do anything for them? Do you think that'll happen during the administration?
I wish it would. I don't think it is. It's a huge problem. But I will say this. Why wasn't the United States government taking care of their own homeless? A lot of them are U.S. veterans from the military.
Definitely, yeah.
But instead, literally flying in these people, some of them without vetting them for their criminal background, and paying for them in hotels, and then paying them and giving them 3 meals and giving them automobiles. So it's absurd. And this is, again, it's upside down. And I think that what we have to do now is look at the homeless people, try to rehabilitate them. Unfortunately, as you know, a lot of them don't want to be rehabilitated. They're just fine. That's who they are. There's a mental condition involved there. Some of them are, post-traumatic stress disorder, but they have to be taken care of, especially in the cold environments. Like today in Boston, it's about 9 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's emergency heating centers. And I have a homeless camp right up behind my house. They pulled a dead body out of there about a year and a half ago. And this summer, when I was pulling out of my driveway at 6:45 a.m., there's 2 men in sleeping bags sleeping under my deck. They've gone into my car. I have a doorbell ring video. They've gone into my mailbox, they're from this homeless encampment up on the hill. So I want to see them taken care of, but it's if they want to go back to their old livelihood, which is freedom and irresponsibility too. They don't want to be held accountable for anything.
Once again,
and quite frankly, Rob, if you get your Social Security in order to pay rent, you're doing pretty well for yourself. If you get that electronically, you get a bank card. There's a lot of them out there. They get everything electronically. They get a bank card. Hey, no rent, no mortgage. So
they don't have to pay taxes.
No taxes.
It's ridiculous. It really is. It's a growing problem up here in Canada as well. And I'd love to see what the politicians are going to do about it. I had an idea that I sent them. We have a number of military bases that are closed here in Canada. Open up a couple of the military bases. The buildings are there. The infrastructure is already built. Put them there. Have the federal government pay to have it housed. They've got the power there. Everything's there, and yet, nothing.
And down here, Rob, we have vacant malls, vacant plazas where they could do the vacant commercial buildings. COVID killed the commercial real estate market. There are buildings upon buildings, and of course Trump signed an executive order ordering all federal employees back to work, and that's going to clear out. There's going to be tons of jobs, by the way, available because people are either going to get fired or they're going to quit. But there's plenty of space available, and not just the hotels. I know people trying to get to Boston couldn't get a hotel room over the past year and a half because they were occupied by illegal immigrants. So they could do that and give them housing and maybe teach them rehabilitation skills, crafts, right? I'm sure there's wannabe carpenters, plumbing people, electricians. They're not stupid people, the homeless people.
No, they're not, because they're doing what they're doing for a reason. They don't want to pay anything. I've talked to a number of them here in St. Catharines, and they kind of laugh at me. Oh man, you got to work, right? You've got to pay taxes. You've got to pay your mortgage. How much does that cost you? Well,
and they got a point, don't they? Huh? And
I'm saying, holy shoot.
Yep. And then it's the old adage, like, I have friends that are millionaires, and I'm not a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination, but they live at a higher cost of living, and their burn rate is much higher than mine. But what's their level of chump change, so to speak, disposable income after all the bills are settled, and they're living basically month to month. So it like they say, they have no obligation, no taxes, no mortgage, no rent, no utilities. Food, they get off debit cards or they go to the mission, right?
Or dumpster diving. That's a big thing with them.
Yep. And I feel for them. And I've always kept that in the back of my mind growing up, because I know a couple of guys that are homeless. I tried to help them, and they couldn't put the beer bottle down. Couldn't stop smoking weed. And they wound up homeless. And I always said that that's what makes me hustle, get out of bed in the morning.
Right.
Is today might not be as good as yesterday was.
Laura and I have tried to give the homeless hot chocolate or sandwiches, and we get the same thing. Like, can we have money instead? No.
Yeah.
No. No. Do you want this? Well, no.
They'll go get a little baggie down the road, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And tie off and inject. So,
mind you, in weather like this, my heart goes out to them. Like, I don't think any person should have to sleep in the cold. And I think it's a two-sided coin, right? Like, my heart goes out to them because they're sleeping in nylon tents when it's right now outside our studio at 16 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh.
And I wouldn't let a dog stay outside.
No.
You know, and we have social workers and mental health workers and regional workers who go to these people, try to get them out of their tents and bring them to warm places. They don't want to go.
Yep. And I can see that. There's a lack of trust there. But if you think of the tent cities in California, for instance, every major city in the U.S. has it. It's just unbelievable. But you're talking about mental health officials, and there is a mental health crisis in the U.S. I can't speak for Canada since COVID, where people are psychologically damaged. And I know some psychiatrists. He needs treatment. He says now he has nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
Social workers, they're burnt out. So I call them the mental first responders, and we got to think about them as well. So it seems as you put your finger in the hole to plug one hole in the dike, and then another one bursts open.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's the fires, whether it's politics, and thank goodness it's over here in the U.S. Wars, as we spoke before, weapons used to be manufactured to support wars. Now wars are manufactured to support the manufacture of weapons.
Yes. You know, one thing I must say about the homeless before we get on to another topic here, or return to the topic of drones, is that coming March, the Ontario government is tabling a new law that will give authorities the ability to actually take people and actually make sure they get mental health. It's going to be a law. The law enforcement agencies are being given sweeping powers because of the homeless situation has become way out of control. In the summertime here, and this is the God's truth, we had a couple of homeless people running naked up and down the road here, yelling at the top of their voices at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow.
We have found them sprawled out on the streets here. Where
my friends Dennis and Jimmy apparently are in St. Catharines.
I saw them the other day. It's coming to the point where the government is going to do something, and I just can't wait to see what happens. Mind you, that was before Premier Ford had to deal with the 25% tariff that is being threatened upon Canada.
Oh yeah, we can go there. But just closing on the homeless is you got to remember these social workers. They need protection because they're dealing with, unfortunately, a lot of these people are mentally ill and psychotic, schizophrenic. They're out, for a reason, and they could be endangering their lives. So it's one thing to force them to get treatment. It's another thing to make sure there's security.
Yeah.
Now on to your tariffs. So as I mentioned, the Donald insulted Canada, but he was talking about a 25% tariff beginning February 1st. And who does that hurt? You and me, right? Because they're going to pass it on here. If a retailer has to pay 25% more, okay, so you're going to tax Canada, let's just say for Molson. It's a case of Molson, 25% tariff, and then the guy who I'm going to buy it off of here in the States, he's going to slap 25% on it, so it's going to hurt everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's a negotiating point. He's looking for somebody to blink. He knows that Trudeau was weak. Like you said, maybe the smart Carney character can sit down and negotiate. I mean, Canada's our friend. We've been lifelong buddies. Since you guys kicked our butt in the War of 1812, you whooped us. Oh, yeah, big time. People don't know that, but Canada just gave the U.S. a dope slap.
Yeah, the War of 1812.
Anyways,
and that happened about 15 minutes from where our studios are.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd love the history of that war too.
It's very rich. Yeah.
So I guess he if you notice, he didn't mention Canada yesterday in his inauguration speech or when he was signing executive orders. I think you saw that. So it's a negotiating tactic. At the end of the day, like you said, you're gonna pay, and then I'm gonna pay. It's not going to, oh, that money goes to the pockets of Americans. The guy at the liquor store is going to tack on 25% on my end. So I understand the tariffs. You can streamline the business model. I was never a big NAFTA fan, but maybe it's time for a new North American manufactured agreement between the United States and Canada. Why not?
I agree. I agree with you. Times have changed. And they
have. And I always said that Canada was what the United States should have been. All my Canadian friends, I've been there probably 120, 130 times, and I love the Canadian people. I have to be aware that I cannot go beer to beer with them, but I love hockey. I made a professional career out of being a hockey announcer. They're the salt of the earth from the Maritimes, from Newfoundland, Labrador, PEI, from Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta. I mean, I can go right across British Columbia.
And yet you never stopped in to have a coffee with me. And you call me a friend? Huh?
Well, when I'm in Ontario, it's usually the bus ride. I did a game in St. Catharines with the Toronto Maple Leafs alumni probably now almost 11 years ago.
Wow.
I did do that right along the Great Lakes there. So I love Toronto. What a beautiful city. It's fabulous, the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So I love Canada, and I told my wife I wanted to move up there. Then 8 years ago, you had that guy come into power, and I said, no, I'm not going to go. We're not going to move there.
Hey, buddy, you and I have to take our final break, so please stand by. Great having you with us, and thanks for taking time to join us, John.
Sure.
Exo Nation will be back on the other side of this break. And you know what? We talk about everything here. It's open mic. But we're going to get back into UFOs on the other side of this break. I'm Rob McConnell.
Sure.
This is the X Zone, and we're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ, here in beautiful St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And they streaming us at classic1220.ca, so don't go away. Welcome back, Exo Nation. That's Pretty Lady by Lighthouse, and I had the pleasure of working with Skippy Brokaw at CJBK. A great guy, a great drummer, a great singer, and to my good friend Peter Bordley, who is the general manager of Classic 1220 CFAJ. There you go, Peter. I fulfilled our CanCon. And it's always nice being with you, Peter. Our guest this hour is John Horrigan, and his websites are roswellwitness.com and Folklorist TV. Just to finish off with the political aspect, what do you see happening in the next couple of weeks to come?
I think you're going to see violent confrontations with ICE and illegal immigrants. You're going to see stonewalling in lollygagging with Democrats, trying to prevent any nomination that Trump puts forward for members of his cabinet. You're going to see a cease to wars. You're going to see an end to the Ukraine war. You're going to see Russia withdraw from Ukraine. North Korea, as we know, that myth of soldiers, it's a 70-year-old antiquated army that really doesn't know modern-day battlefield techniques. You'll see Trump talk with them. Hamas, Trump threatening them. They expedited a peace agreement. Hopefully, Israel will tone down and stop the bombing and fighting in Gaza and the West Bank, although I wouldn't mind if they bloodied the nose of the Houthis a little more, because they're dangerous. They're causing environmental disasters just outside the Suez Canal with their piracy and sinking tankers. And then Iran, I think that Trump, they better pipe down, because when Trump left office, they were broke. So you're going to see, hopefully, peace. The opposite party will be upping their intake of antidepressants, but hopefully it'll be peace, and that the North American economy, that they'll freeze inflation and halt the rising prices, and that there's peace and love. That's what I hope.
Let's get to UFOs. What about this Jake Barber UFO crash retrieval footage?
Wow. Couple things. Let me just finish off what I said about the drones.
Okay.
How I think that they're a combination of the three, Chinese, American, and them from outer space. So this past week, a guy by the name of Ross Coulthart, who 2 years ago thought there was nothing to UFOs, or I have a video of him. Then he said there's something to it. And he became the major, from News Nation, major mainstream journalist to break this. So I salute him 1,000 times. But his witnesses have come forward. They're coming forward by the droves. It was David Grush, Lou Elizondo, and this guy Jake Barber, former military man, helicopter pilot. He said that he was involved in UFO crash retrievals. Now, you and I have heard about we've beaten Roswell to death, the old Kingman, Aztec 1948, Kingman 1953, blah, blah, blah. So he shows this green video, and I don't know if you saw it. It looks like some sort of cord, I forget the terminology, that's grabbing this egg-shaped object that he said he found on the range, which is the Nellis Test Complex in Nevada, near or outside of Area 51, where all the atomic tests, the 1,000 atomic tests, took place in the United States in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And it's really, I got to tell you, Rob, when they showed the video, I got up and went to the men's room. It's just blah. What is this? Oh, it's an egg. And then it got me to thinking about egg-shaped UFOs. The comment that was made is they find them all the time, end quote. And this guy here said that as he was carrying it, he was there was an emotional calmness that came about him. I mean, he broke down in tears when he was saying this, that it was peace and benevolence. And he said it was almost like a female entity. In my Catholic terminology, I call it the Holy Spirit. Right. But he had this feeling, and he said it changed his life, and he's a whistleblower. And, of course, these whistleblowers have to come public.
But wait a sec. Hold on here. What's he whistleblowing on?
A crash retrieval.
What, of an egg?
Yes. He's claiming it's a UFO, and they find these eggs all the time on the Nellis Range.
I think he may have been watching, what was that show with Robin Williams, where
Mork and Mindy.
Mork and Mindy. He came to Earth in an egg.
You're right. I never thought of that.
Yeah. The reason I used to watch Mork and Mindy all the time is because Mindy's name was Mindy McConnell. You see?
Ooh.
Ooh.
I watched Mindy because it was Mindy, but
I couldn't. I was married, so I had to.
Yep. But, of course, a tragic story about Robin Williams.
Yes.
Brilliant comic.
Yeah, brilliant.
But, yeah. So if we look at the history of main egg-shaped objects in ufology, you have what was known as the Levelland Egg of 1957, Levelland, Texas. Yeah. You have the Lonnie Zamora incident, 1964, Socorro, New Mexico. And then you have something in France called the Valençol incident, 1965. So those three are prominent UFO cases, and very well known, about egg-shaped craft, and two of them had occupants in them.
Okay, so I with whistleblowers, I don't know. I just can't put my head around the veracity of them. Because if they, like this guy, he's got a video of night shot of an egg. Big deal. Did if it was a crash retrieval, wouldn't that egg be broken?
One would think, if you're thinking in the vein of fossil-fueled, piston-driven, aluminum steel technology, right? So if this is some sort of strange element that we're not familiar with. I've heard the term bismuth used. Linda Moulton Howe has used that. Some sort of strange metal that is indestructible, or it takes a lot of effort to dent it. Maybe that's what it's made of. I don't know. He doesn't mention any occupants. He felt a presence. But you're saying that, as you say, the veracity, it's a fire hose, Rob. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've studied this for years, and I'm more confused now than I ever was, to the point that I've stepped back and I go back into my historical UFO cases, and I'm happy there because I don't understand all of these whistleblowers coming forward in the last 45 days. Their stories, I thought I heard it all. I haven't. Some of them are certainly preposterous and unbelievable, and one has to ask if it's the CIA or the DIA. I mean, with misinformation, they're aces at that, right?
Yeah.
And to send these people forward, and they all bug eyes. So they almost have this crazed look in their eyes. So it's to the point that I'll let other guys other women and men figure that out, that are better researchers, more well-spoken than I am. I'm going to go back into my UFO encounters of the late 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and hang there, you know?
I wonder how much money these guys make. Like Alexander, he's made a lot of money on the TV and speaking circuit.
Lou?
Go on.
Lou Elizondo?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I heard. He had to move because we were harassed by not only the military, but the UFO nuts, and you know some of them. And to the point that he and his wife, they were called out. The guy, Tom DeLonge, the drummer from Blink 182, is it? Who had, hey, come on out. There's some sort of star research. He moves out there with his family. Then it dries up. He's living in a trailer in a garage somewhere, trying to live in anonymity, trying to get a revenue stream and income. So his wife described it as hell on earth. And you walk a mile in my shoes, she said, for a day, and then you'd wish you'd back in your life anytime. So she's not very happy. I know Grush, that guy who said that he had a nervous breakdown. You know, we all fall down. We all get back up. But I'm sure that his life has been threatened, his car broken into. And he really delivered a whole big bowl of nothing, didn't he?
Yeah.
At those
they all
congressional hearings.
They all do.
Yep.
Yeah,
detail.
It's a waste of time.
It is a waste of time. And, Rob, I tell you about the Levelland egg, but I can't. That's classified. I tell you about Lonnie Zamora, but I can't. That's classified. Right. You know about Lonnie Zamora. It's so when I hear that, it's just cloak and dagger to the point. And I try to tell people, my ufology friends, this is all took place during the Biden administration. So watch out. Deception.
Yeah, I've lost a couple of good friends last year when I said, for God's sake, guys, you know, can't you talk about anything else but Roswell? Like, it's dead. Go, you know, and I've had emails from listeners saying, why do you have the old guys on when they never talk about anything new?
Good point. I mean, and I'm you know, I'm calling the kettle black here because I found that Roswell Witness panel video that I took in 1997. I released in 2024, the last gathering of the living Roswell witnesses. You know, draw curtains, roll credits, and that's it. Quit Roswell. And one of my heroes is Kevin D. Randall. Yeah. I think he's great. I love what he writes. I saw one of his shows the other night on the Kingman incident. But after that, it's like he said, Kevin said, we don't have a dead alien, you know, and it's too far away from us now, the Roswell incident. Coming up on 80 years, it's time to walk away. Exactly. And then, do you have, Rob, just one UFO crash, Roswell, or do you have multiple UFO crashes?
The story changes.
Or 10 UFOs crash at all, right?
There's so many stories. It's like the last. I've got a theory that the UFO conspiracy is maintained and perpetrated by the UFO community, because if ever there is a UFO found, you know, they've got nothing. All right, there's UFO. Okay, great. But to keep it going until they find it or until they think they found it, they've got to keep this conspiracy going. It's not the government. It's not the CIA. It's MUFON, for God's sake.
There you go, right there. And I got I said in a speech many years ago in Ohio, I called MUFON many useless fools organizing nothing. And what they do is they go in, what's the moon? Where is the moon? What is the temperature? What's the wind? You saw the moon. You saw Venus. These people are morons. They saw an unexplained unidentified flying object.
Yep.
Deal with it. And then they play secret squirrel. They don't share the data. There's clicks within MUFON. It's awful. And I got the journal for so many years. And then after that, and the best day of my life was in 2015 when I said, no, I'm not resubscribing to MUFON. It's, I love the old organizations like APRO, right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time. But MUFON has really gone obsolete. And I'll tell you what, they are getting flooded and tsunamied and railroaded and run over and pancaked by this UFO thing. MUFON has become obsolete.
Hey, listen, you and I hate to do this, my friend, but you and I have to say so long for tonight. We're going to have you back because we still have so much more to talk. And John, man, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And just keep what you're doing, John. You're keeping a lot of people with their feet in the fire, and that's what needs to be happening. Yep. Take care, my friend.
God bless Canada. God bless the people of Canada. To all the listeners out there tonight, God bless you. And I hope you have a good life, good sleep.
All right, we're going to speak to you soon, John. Take care of yourself, my friend. Regards to your family. And say hi to those two people sleeping in your car tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, X-Zone Nation, so whatever you do, take care of each other and keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.